Hello, everyone, and welcome to another discussion in MSAI 631. Today, we're going to be talking about Google Colab. I've mentioned before that there are multiple options of environments for your development work in this course. This is one of those options. It is hosted in the Google Research domain. So to get there, you go to collab.research.google.com, and you'll see a page that looks very much like this. And this is basically the page that is going to show anybody that has a Google account already and that accesses this service. It is free with limitations. There is a pay option if you want to use this for more interesting and powerful type work. Then there is a various plans associated with that. However, for what you'll be doing in this course, I don't see any reason why you would need to purchase any sort of additional capacity. If you click on that notebook, you'll come into something that looks a bit like this, and we'll switch over and do more interactive interrogation of those screens as after we finish this initial pass through. So you'll see a notebook that is the Welcome to Collaboratory notebook, and this is kind of the getting started for you, if you will. And it's a pretty good notebook. It walks through the basics. The pattern here, as with most of these notebook interfaces, is similar to what we've talked about before. You have a combination of code or text. Up here you can see. So each cell is one of those two choices. You can also have things where your interaction with your Google Drive is available to you as well. And a really cool thing that's available is the AI that you may want to take an interest in, especially given the nature of this course, because it is an interesting sort of offering. So this is the place where you're going to start off. Whenever you go to click a new notebook or add a new notebook, you click on the File menu, say New Notebook. This is very consistent with Jupyter Labs and Jupyter Notebooks sort of interfaces as well. So essentially File New. And then once you do that, you land on a new notebook, similar to what you see up here on the right side. I went ahead and played with the auto-generated code that this thing can do for you. So there's this generate wizard available to you, and it's pretty cool stuff. It basically, and we'll go ahead and just shift into that, which is what I've done. So here's the notebook we were just glancing at. And what I did was use this generate button that's a choice, and I can show you here. I just added a new cell, and it is a code cell. So it offered to either let me start writing, or I can do some generative stuff associated with code generation. And what I told it is something that you sometimes will do in a data science world, especially, is create me a data frame that has columns, name, and ID that contains random strings and integers in those in that data frame. And of those types, and it wrote the appropriate code. There is lots of caution, and this is something to really consider when using any generative AI tool, be it whatever, ChatGPT or something else, is that the results may or may not be right. So don't assume just because you got it from a computer that it's correct. That'll be true of a summary of an article. It'll be true of code that you generate and so on. So you'll always want to look at it with a certain amount of skepticism. It turns out in this case, it did a good job. So we can also now do another generate, and you can actually tell it to use a particular notebook or a particular data frame, and it should, I guess it doesn't work that way. So I should also then be able to say, display the data frame named DF, and that should work. We'll see what it does. And it's a really simple thing to do, right? So it just gives you the code that'll do that, and the data frame by itself will do it. Um, you don't need to do any additional operands because it is returning it, and this is a pandas data frame. So that's just a simple example. Things to know about these notebooks. First of all, you've got the name is not a really pretty one whenever it's first created, so we can change this to be something like exploration of CodeGen. And not a bad name for it, right? Because that's kind of what this notebook is doing. Also, switching back over to the Welcome to Collaboratory, there's some cool stuff here with this table of contents. So the way that's being done for you, if we click on this, it shifts you right down to it, and it's doing that because of the way that this markdown is written. So it's going being able to know that that is a target um, inside of this particular area. So some cool stuff. Um, so if I go to getting started and look at the getting started, it's got this indication that lets you know that it is this header or bolded, so to speak, um, and so on. Anyway, uh, long story short, it lets you do quick navigation amongst it. You've also got this mixture here of code with documentation. This is a really good example of why notebooks are very compelling and powerful. For example, in here they've embedded a video, right, using a very lightweight form of HTML to add it in, including with a thumbnail, right, image, so that you see that image and then you click on it and so on, making it really professional looking. You can also run the code, right? So this is running code, and it's doing it against connecting to a little kind of virtual machine of sorts that I'm using. So a hosted runtime is what we're using. And there's other ways of doing stuff. This particular runtime is a fairly lightweight environment, not terribly powerful, but it's usually good enough for what we want to do in this course until we get into some of the more interesting things, potentially dealing with large language models later on. So here's another example of seeing how you can incorporate your graphics, your results into your notebook. This is a very compelling user experience, and from a human-computer interaction perspective, a very powerful way of showing your users the results of that computation in a way that is the code that was used to generate it for those that are interested in the code, but then with the output for those that are more interested in the output. You obviously have quite a few of comments inside of this to go through, but do note that there is a certain amount of support here for things like TPUs and GPUs, albeit somewhat limited in the free offering. But this is a great place to start to learn about this environment. It is also possible to work with GitHub. If you go to Tools, Settings, GitHub, there's a place here to do an authorization, so to authorize it. So you probably want to take a look at that as you move along. There's also integration with Google Drive. So that you've got a means of getting data to and from this environment, or perhaps hosting your data in your Google Drive and processing it from Google Collaboratory. So very, very compelling and interesting stuff. Definitely worth your time to take a look at. Also, a very viable alternative for a development environment in which you might want to work. Some pretty good examples here, including some image classifiers using a Keras model, and so on. So with that, pretty cool technology. You probably want to take a look. If you have questions, let me know. As always, like and subscribe, as we always say, and stay safe, and I'll talk with you soon.